Hi everyone, my name is Samanvay Rakesh, and in this video, we are going to be doing our first project of this course. So, before we begin our project, let us go ahead and install the required packages. So, the packages that we require for this project is LangChain, LangChain Community, OpenAI, Python.env, and even Streamlit. So, we can use the pip command, which will basically we have to type in pip install, and you can do this separately as well, or you can type it all together. Langchain, Langchain community, and then we have python.env, and then we also have OpenAI and Streamlit. So we can type this all together, and pip, which is basically the Python installer, will install it for us. And you can see it says requirement already satisfied, as I already had it installed. So what we can do, we can create new file, and I'm going to name this as project one. So this is going to be the place where we write our code. So let's begin with our code. So let's start by importing LangChain community, and we'll add a .llms here, and we're going to import OpenAI from this, as we need OpenAI for the LLM. So then after this, we're going to be importing .env. Now in Python, you can create something called as envs, and env is basically like an environment, and all the variables that we create in this particular environment will stay in this environment, and any other files that we create will also be able to use those variables, and those variables are called as environment variables. Now we can also save things like an API key in an env, and to load it in, we need load.env. So we have imported load.env also. And then next we'll import OS, and and we need to install OS as well, and we can do that later. And now we also need to install, we also have to get in prompt template. I will tell you more about that later after we type this in. So you basically have to type LangChain prompts, and you have to say from LangChain dot prompts import prompt template. And then after this, we're going to import another important thing called LLM chain. We're going to import this from langchain.chains, and we're going to import LLM chains. So after this is done, we can go to the next part, which we're going to just say load.env, and this is going to load the env. And here we're going to do the main part, which is going to be creating the function which will generate an answer for the question. So let me type in a define function, and I'm going to say generate answer. So basically, as you know, define function is used to create your own function, and you can put arguments in here which will be given by the user. So we're going to put in four arguments, which is going to be question, chatbot type, insight type, and then finally temperature. Now, let me tell you a bit about the few arguments that we've used. Now, the question is going to be used to get a question, as this is going to be a insight bot, which will basically take questions from the user and give an answer. Now we have chatbot type, as later we're going to make options for the user to select. And the chatbot type will make it so that the user will get a particular response. Like we can set options like we want the chatbot to be informational, or we want it to make it we want it to be like an article writer, or we want it to be professional, we want it to be balanced, we want it to be creative, like that. Then we have insight type, and this is just an argument, but basically what we're going to be setting here is how we want the output to be generated. Like there's going to be options like we want it for essay, we want it for articles, we want it short, we want it a big explanation, like that we can set, and we'll create options for that. Now temperature in LLMs is basically how creative or how professional it is. And now temperature will be measured using a scale of 1 to 10. Now, 1 will mean that it's extremely professional and it does not have any creative side to it. And 10 will mean it's extremely creative. You can balance it out by putting 5, which is going to be the middle point between professional and creative. So, this is the four arguments that we've put in. Now, we're going to make an API key here, and we're going to say os.getEnv open open AI API key. Now, we haven't created an env yet, and we haven't created a variable for this yet, but we will do this in the next video, where I'm going to create an env, and there we're going to store our API key. So we have made an API key, and whenever it is like slowly blurred out, that basically means that it hasn't been used anywhere on the code yet. So we have, as we haven't called the API key variable anywhere, it is showing like a blurred, lighter form of it. Now, next what we're going to do, we're going to create a prompt template, which is going to be the basis on which the LLM is going to receive a prompt. So I'm going to say equals prompt template, and we imported this earlier using langchain.prompt, and we're going to set it as input variables is equal to question. Then we have, after question we have insight type, but let me just set this as question, and after this it's insight type. Then is also going to be length type, or chatbot, which is going to be chatbot type also. Now temperature doesn't need to be put in this input variable section, as temperature will be set later when we're building the UI. So then we're going to put template as I have a question, and we are going to make that as the question, which is the input variable over here. So whatever question the user asks, it's going to be imported or inputted over here. Then we want to make it, and I want the answer to be chatbot, or let's say I want you to give me an answer, or we can say I want you to be, as we are telling the chatbot how needs to respond. I want you to be chatbot type, as if we say professional, it's going to give a professional answer. So I'm going to say chatbot type, and after that I'm going to say, and I want the answer to be formatted like inside type. Now this is going to be the template for the prompt, as when the user gives an input for the variable, which is going to be from the arguments in the defined function, it's all going to get inputted over here and sent to the LLM. So the user won't be directly asking a rough question to the LLM. As LLMs, it needs a proper prompt. And the more the more properly framed the sentence is, the easier it is. So, and the user might ask questions which sound really like unprofessional questions, like what is the time, etc., etc. And for that, we need to input it like this by saying, I have a question, and which is going to be the question, and we're going to tell it, I want it to be professional and I want the answer to be formatted in this particular type. So this is going to be the prompt template. After this, we're going to do a small if function for errors. We're going to say if not API key, we're going to raise an error for the user, and it's going to be a value error, which is going to be API OpenAI API key is missing. And we're going to say ensure that it is in your ENB file. So this is going to make sure if by any chance there's no API key for the LLM, it's going to raise a value error instead, and it's going to stop the code right here instead of going through the whole thing. So this is going to be the part where we raise an error. If there is already an API key, it's going to move forward to the next part. So I will continue this in my next video, and we will also be creating a ENV file for the OpenAI key. I will see you in my next video.